Monday the 19th, and tonight we have all of our guests are special. Don't get this wrong, but this is a very special guest. This is my sister. This is Dooney's queen, and we are going to have a beautiful, beautiful conversation. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the We Outside live cast, where all of our conversations are exactly that because we don't do interviews, we do human conversation. That's what we do, and that's no different than the conversation that we're going to have tonight with the queen, Vanessa, who is also just like two equivalent who joined us for the Put the Guns Down conversation, and we're gonna carry that conversation over, and we're gonna talk about some other things as well. This is episode number 2 for Queen Vanessa. So welcome back to the outside with us. We appreciate you taking the time, and all of the wisdom, experiences, and knowledge that you're going to share with us today. And as you already know, because this is not your first rodeo with us, we always want to take the
Right.
time for you in your own words, just let the people know who you are, what it is that you do. And then we're just going to have what we do all the time, a human conversation. So let them know, sis, who you are and what you're about.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you again, Mike. I always appreciate you. Appreciate the love. I hope everyone is doing well. Everyone is, staying safe out there. But my name is Vanessa, Queen Vanessa, that is. And,
Mm-hmm.
I do, I own a daycare. I work with kids. I wear many hats. I mentor. Um, I speak to women. I speak with children. Speak with men. Um, I try to give support where I can. You know, um, I work a lot with young children as well, trying to help them get on the right path, lead them the right way, let them see that if they haven't had a hug or someone has told them that they love them, I definitely extend that love to them all the time. Sometimes that's what they're missing and all they need, but I wear many hats. I really do. I became queen of Sacramento Mardi Gras recently. Um, Me and my king, of course, and that's exciting. It's a lot of new things coming with that as well. I have a few events that I've planned. Hopefully, we can get together and that can all come together and fall in place, and everybody can get together, have a good time, get to know some new people, get some new resources, and just see what we can do and to change some things. We can't change everybody, but we can change somebody.
Isn't that the truth? That is very much the truth. And it starts with a lot of things that you've already talked about that you have been doing for quite some time as well in your community, right? In respects to, even if it's just as simple as just giving somebody a hug, right? Or just having a conversation or just trying to make some kind of difference in a valuable manner, right? So if you could, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, through doing the things that you've already mentioned and discussed within your community, what value has come out of that through those experience is, what have you seen happen from just doing those very simple human things, whether it be talking to somebody, hearing somebody out if they got a challenge going on in their life in that given moment, or if it's just been a life where they've just been dealt, a bad hand of cards. What good have you experienced, coming from just doing those simple human things, which, guess what, again, people, does not cost anything but our time. I'm curious what your thoughts are on what you've experienced from being able to do those things.
What I've experienced being able to do those things, it's been some positive outcomes with getting people to go out and feed the homeless. Come out with me to do that. Um, I've had some people, some kids enroll back in school. That's a positive outcome. Um, I've had some children go back home as well. Some other kids also, and it's kind of hard to get teenagers to talk to other teenagers because they feel like they'll get pushback or it's uncool. But I've had the experience of getting some teenagers to as well speak to other teenagers about getting on the positive road as well. Um, it's been, some women, getting resources to women that need resources as well, helping, just different. It's been a lot of turnaround for some people. Whether people stick to it or not, I can't say. But to see them actually put forth an effort, then we're pretty much on the right path with that.
No, you're right.
So,
The effort
and positive.
and what you said there, I think, is important, right? Because it's one thing to be able to have these conversations or experiences with other people, but at the end of the day, when we're done having those conversations or sharing our experiences or that knowledge or wisdom that we're trying to have come across to somebody, they still have to make the effort and the conscious choice to go out and act upon what it is that they took out of that experience with you in this scenario, right? And we had talked about it earlier,
Right.
Dooney and I did, with two equivalents, and we know, and I know you know well enough that everybody's different, right? Everybody thinks differently, feels differently, processes emotions differently. um and I'm not saying there's necessarily one thing that's going to work for every single individual. But if there's maybe a commonality from all the experiences that you've had, whether it be, a teenager getting back into school, a teenager, going back home, a teenager having a healthy and productive conversation with another teenager, if there is only one just general commonality between all those experiences that you had, whether it be with a teenager or not, what do you feel has been that one common success with everybody that you've worked with and have had those interactions with, that has made those conversations, or at least the ones that have been successes, let's just call it, where you've at least been able to get through them? What do you think's been a common trait with all of the interactions of those individuals that you've had?
Um, a common trait with all of them. Well, I just think that the common trait, I mean, love, um, coming together, just really grasping the ideal of, everybody wanting to just, get together, live, and get our community right. Um, I would just say the common trait is just going to be all about love, putting God in it, and that's something that I feel, when you speak with someone about something positive, and especially when you put God in it, I mean, you have no choice but, to come together.
I think that's the key word that you said there, love. If you just could come with just that simple emotion of love, and letting that
Right.
other individual that you're speaking to, that I'm coming to you as a human being with just that unconditional love of being a human myself, to just try to understand, if for nothing else, what it is that you might be going through. Like, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're tapping in with us live or you're going to see this when this officially drops next week on YouTube, it's really that simple. Having the most importantly, having the pure intention, because I think we can all agree as well, and I think we're old enough to have experienced, maybe what we thought was love, right? So I think you have to understand that, one, there's going to be love, behind most of what people want, but is that love of pure intention, or is it of something where that individual's trying to gain some kind of personal something from it, right? And I bring that up, Vanessa, because I know that's not you, but I bring that up to ask the question. Then, Dooney, I definitely want your thoughts on this specific question as well. How much of an impact, Vanessa, do you feel that it makes when you're coming with that pure intentional love and care for another human being, versus you as the individual trying to share that love is actually trying to get something out of it, if that makes sense?
Right. Well, when I approach a person, I pretty much, depending on the situation or what they're going through, really, I lead with prayer. I lead with God. I let that person know that, I don't want anything from you, but is it okay if I pray with you? Is it okay if I talk with you? Or what is it that you're going through? You have to approach a person letting them know that you care about what they're going through. You have to make them feel comfortable about that, because you don't just, me personally, I don't just go to anybody and just start blabbing off and telling them about their situation, or what's happening or what they should do. I approach a person and I do politely ask them, and I'll pull them to the side. I don't know you, you don't know me, but I see that you're going through something. Is it okay if I pray with you? Or if you want to talk about it, I'm here for you. Would you like to talk about it? So it really depends on the situation and how you approach a person. You really will know. I know if a person is serious when they're coming to me. If they're genuine about anything that they're saying, I know, okay, you don't know nothing, because me personally, I was always taught everybody can't pray for you. You know what I mean? Everybody cannot pray for you. Everybody is not your friend. Everybody does not have good intentions. And it's not to down anyone, but you will know. You will know. So I approach people differently. God is always, first and foremost with anything I'm dealing with. We don't know who we're dealing with when we approach people. We don't know what kind of day
No, you're
they're
absolutely
having.
right.
So
When you said something important there too that I think a lot of people fail to realize when they're trying to be a helpful resource to people as well. You could come off as, and I'm saying in general, you in general, not you
right,
specifically. You could come off wrong if you just come at somebody and you're just trying to just give them something, right? And you said something that I think is very important that a lot of people miss. You ask permission, whether it's just
right.
having a prayer with them and that's all that's going to happen from that interaction, or asking the permission to ask them what's going on, right? And I just wanted to note that and notate that real quick, because that's an important part of it, especially if it's someone that you don't know, or you might,
Right.
you might know a little bit about, but maybe not to that level where you can just come and step to them, like us, we know each other well enough, like if something's going on, we know each other well enough where we can just say something, right? Like, hey, I hear something, let's talk about it, right?
Right.
um but so I think that was worth noting. Dooney, what are your thoughts to what I initially asked Vanessa with respect to coming at somebody with pure intention, with just that simple human emotion that is love and pure intention, when you're trying to make some headway in speaking with somebody or get through to them on a certain scenario, situation, or conversation, versus doing it not with any ill will, but doing it with you trying to get something out of it. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that you'd like to add?
It's just my lifestyle. It's just the way that I am. I'm just built like that, right?
True, and which anybody that knows you knows that's very much the true. But how much of an impact do you think it is with you and the way that you go about it with that pure and intentional love, when you're speaking to another human being in any scenario? How much of an impact do you think that actually makes coming with those pure intentions of love versus just like coming out of it with the opposite feelings of that pure intentional love?
Yeah. y- it's a door opener, bro. You can open or close the door with your energy and your approach, bro. And you don't get a do over, right? You only get the first shot.
First
And I just
impressions
say,
are a good
man, yeah,
impression. Yep.
like if you go, if like my queen said, if you go with God in your heart, they gonna feel that, bro, and God gonna make them feel that, bro. But if you go, there's no way you can approach no one, no matter what's coming out your mouth, if your energy ain't right. The first thing kids gonna be able to tell is energy.
It's very
You know what
true.
I'm
The
saying?
energy is,
That's
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because of that energy, because as humans, we feed off of that from other human beings, right? Like the communication process, for example. And we talk about it frequently in the show because I think it's worth noting, because a lot of people don't realize that if you take communication between human beings, the sum of the whole at 100%, right? 18% of the communication process is the words that you say, 27% is how you use or the tone of those words, which makes up, if we're doing the math together, that's 45%.
Nonverbal communication.
55% of the communication process between us as human beings, more than 50% of that process is nonverbal. People read off of those frequencies and energies with everything that you're doing and saying. And I think that's an important point to note there, Dooney, because if you're not coming at somebody the right way with the right intention and the right energies, then it's going to be very hard to make a any kind of impression, especially if you're trying to make a positive one. If they've got something that might not be perceived as a positive move kind of going on in their life. So my curiosity leads me to Vanessa. Is there an experience that you might be able to speak about, or just even in generalities, where it's just been a challenge to have that type of conversation with somebody because they are just so closed off from that communication process, and what maybe worked with that individual, or just kind of in general, and trying to get crack the tough cookie, if you will.
It's funny that you would say that, ask that question, because there has been recently a relative of mine's um, child had been shot. And we don't know what these kids go through, or anyone that has been in that situation goes through. But he had an anger in him, didn't want to talk to anyone about it, just didn't want to be bothered, just very rebellious about, getting help and getting well and all of that, but I stayed consistent. Doesn't matter. I love you. I love you. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. You cannot get rid of me that easy. I'm here constantly. It's a consistency that you have to have. I called, I sent messages, I showed up, stayed the course with him. Consistency is everything. If you let a person push you away and say, no, I don't need your help, no, leave me alone, you have to recognize that this person is feeling some anger. They're hurt. They're going through something they've never been through before.
Trauma.
So you have to stay consistent. You can't give up on them, because once they see you give up on them, they're going to give up on themselves, because they're already on that path anyway. So you have to stay the course and stay consistent with that person. And so I did that. And first and foremost, I was praying and continued to pray. Not only me, but I have a whole prayer team. We stay consistent with what we do. And I tell people, God is real. You can't go wrong being right. You know what I mean? You have to stay consistent. You have to be there. You have to show a person that I don't just speak words. Anybody can say whatever. They can say, I love you, and go on, because they feel that that's what they're supposed to say. But you have to mean what you say and say what you mean. If I tell you that I love you, it is what it is. I love you. Not only am I going to tell you, I'm going to show you. So I have stayed consistent, and he's on the right path. He's doing great. I could just say God is good. He's good. He gives me that heart, and I thank God for my heart. You know what I'm saying? And the mindset and the person that I am, my mother. You know what I'm saying? Just the love. You have to stay consistent.
So we was just talking to Equivalent, and his nephew had just been shot. And we talking about all these kids that we know that has been shot. And we know the trauma that they go through from being shot, and all the psychological and emotional head trips they're going to face after being shot. Why isn't there any places for them to get counseling? Why isn't anyone there to talk to them? Have a group for them to help them through that, so they can understand that they're not alone, because I'm sure everyone that gets shot feel like they're alone. and it hurts and it makes you angry to feel that you're alone. Plus that pain that you're going through exacerbates that, right? Why isn't it something being done or created in our community, in your words, to provide that for our uh, assaulted youth, our victimized youth?
I think there should be a group started. Not sure if there's one out there already, but I'm sure that, you know, a lot of these kids, that are being shot, killed in the street, because it traumatizes, the friends, the relatives, anybody that was with them at the time, or, whatever. But a lot of them, feel they get together and, talk about it. It's almost like the snitch code, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get in a group, but there's a lot of them that do want to get into groups and talk about what happened to them. Um, it's a hurting thing. They need to be heard. They really need to be heard, because even the parents are going through something, because they're having to deal with the fact that their child got shot. I've seen it firsthand. It's traumatizing. It's hurting. Is this person still out there? Can this happen again? You know what I'm saying? What was the intent behind it? Are they coming back? So these are a lot of things that, go through even a parent's mind, as well as the child, when something like this happens. So there should be a group. Hey,
Why do you
that's something to put in our bucket. A group for, kids that have been traumatized, that have been shot. Where do you go from there? How do you get back on the path of focusing on going forward and moving forward in life? It's sad, but there should definitely be a group somewhere started.
No,
They're
you're right.
not going to start it.
That's true. Somebody's got to do it. And we were talking about it earlier with two equivalent, like Dunia said, that it doesn't really take anything. All it takes is that step. Like all you need is a phone, a place, a safe place where people just sit down in a group and have some conversation, right? You said something interesting that I didn't think of necessarily yet. Or let me put it this way: you saying what you said here a moment ago made me think of this. Because it's one thing for, in the scenario that you're talking about, experiencing it firsthand, where you saw or went through the experience of not just the victim being a youth, but then how it affects their parents as well, right? How or let me put it this way: what was that experience that you went through where it affected the parents, right? And then how do you feel that plays into the parents' mental health from that experience, um, as well? Because now you have the victim itself, and we always talk about collateral damage when it comes to violence of any kind. Certainly, this experience that you're talking about, which involved gun violence, but that's really, in most cases, you would think, anyways, it's got to make the parent feel a certain way, right? Like, man, I didn't do enough to protect my kid, right? But that might not always be the case, because what happened if you were literally out of state, or let's say, you happen to be on a work trip or whatever? Well, yeah, we know as parents, right, we can't be there every single waking moment of a kid's life. But how do you feel that plays into the psyche of the parents, when it comes to that experience that you were talking about a few minutes ago?
Oh, it's traumatizing for them as well. It's a thought of not wanting to let your child go anywhere. You know, that parent didn't want, of course, to take her eyes off of her child. You know, it's a, what are you doing? Where are you going? And it's not even that. It's the process of trying to get your child back to normal. What do I do? Where do I go from here? How do I get through to my child? Because, my child is angry. My child is hurting. my child is not caring anymore, is, giving up. I get my child back on the track of move forward, getting, that healing process, letting that child know that, I love you, I'm here for you, I understand. And it's that word I understand is really, it's pretty strong. How can I get you to believe that I understand? Because it's you that's going through it. It's not me. And I watched it. I've seen the hurt with this parent, the struggle, the getting up in the middle of the night, the talking to, her child, letting her child know that I'm here for you, and I'm here to help you, especially when a child is being rebellious, saying, no, I don't want, I'm not going to go, they didn't want to be in the hospital. They didn't want to do, the process because that anger is blocking. But she's done a great job of, finally getting them on the path of, healing and understanding that, the family is here, we love you, and we're doing this together. It's very traumatizing for a parent to do that. It's very traumatizing. It was traumatizing for her. Day one, I've watched the whole process. Just hurt, a lot of pain, angry, afraid. You go through all of that. It's all.
It has to be that for everyone in the household. I would imagine even the kids. You know,
Yes.
they gonna suffer their bouts of trauma from this experience as well.
Right.
And I just think when someone pulls the trigger, I don't think that they think about all the people that's going to be affected by them pulling that trigger.
Right.
I don't think they
Right.
think about that because it would have to make you human again, right? To think about the mothers, the grandmothers, the brothers, the sisters, the kids, the uncles, the aunts, to think about everyone, how they would feel once that bullet went into the body of their loved one. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah, it has to it affects everyone. It's like a web, bro.
Well, that's the thing too,
Like
right? Doing what you're talking about because it happens in such an instant, right? Like it literally takes you an instant. I mean, yeah, there subconsciously you might already be thinking about committing whatever act it is that's going to cause some long-term physical and or mental trauma that comes with it as well. Whether you're unaliving somebody or not, there's a lot to come with that because in that instant that will change your life one way or the other, and whether you get caught for it or not, if you're the one that's perpetrating that violence, are you thinking about the aftermath of what comes with it? And even if you don't get caught, right, when we talk about the mental aspect of it, one way or the other, you still have to carry that in your mind for the rest of your physical well-being. That's a lot. That's a lot for somebody to carry, whether you do get caught or not. Like, regardless where you are after that happens, or where you may end up or not end up after that happens, that's a burden. It's a burden that will eat away at you. And it may not happen in a day after it happened, or a week after that happened, or even a year. It might be 50 years down the road, maybe, before you actually start to come to terms with that, right? Which we talked about it a little bit earlier as well. The blocking of it. Like, you might not necessarily be looking at this individual as a person. You might just be looking at them as a thing, or just an opposition, or something
objectifying.
standing.
It's called objectifying,
Hmm.
making them less than human.
And just thinking about that from a mental perspective, someone's got to carry a lot of trauma or have gone through certain experiences in life that can make them, and from a mental health standpoint, there's some individuals that might just not be uh wired correctly, whether it be chemically or biologically or whatever the case might be. But for those that are, it's really sad, especially if they get exposed to certain things at a youthful age, where it puts them in a position where they can or have the power and or make those choices to just do something so obscene, like commit a significant um, bout of violence against somebody, whether it includes a firearm or not. Like, there's so much trauma underlying there, um, for them to commit something so heinous. Um, so when we talk about, kind of what we talked about earlier, as far as just creating a group, right? We were talking about creating a group, with respect to people that are either victims of gun violence, or, they are a family member or friend of somebody who's experienced gun violence or even perpetrated the gun violence, right? So let's talk about it more in generalities from a mental health standpoint, as it relates to those two things that we were talking about. If you just even think, and I'm more curious, and certainly take a minute or two, because this is not necessarily a quick answer. What do you think that we could do within our communities? What do you think you could do within your community with the resources that you would have available to create one of these, let's just call it, for lack of a better word, a support group that we might be able to offer to anybody of any age that might be dealing with aftermath of some type of violence, or just kind of like mental health challenges as well? Because again, that's not something that's just regularly offered like an AA is. Like, if I wanted to go to an AA meeting tomorrow, I could look up somewhere online right now. A lot easier to find where I could go to an AA meeting than I might be able to, go to a free mental health clinic or mental health group. So I'm curious, what you might be able to use as resources in your communities, to create a group like that for some mental health, support groups within the community.
I would say there's a lot of nonprofit groups. I see them do a lot of different things. I just feel that if we're trying to help the youth, that we can create some type of group where parents can come out and sit in these groups as well with their kids, because parents know who their children are. They know which children they're having problems with. They know, even know which, their friends, people they're hanging out with. You have to catch the problem before it gets too far. It starts at home. So they can go, even have someone go and speak at these schools, let these kids know that there is somewhere that you can come if you need to talk to someone. We hold a group on these days at a certain time. Come out and talk. Anyone that has been traumatized, anyone that has, been, hurt, shot, not heard, whatever you're going through, you can come out to this group and sit and talk. I just think that, we should have these youth programs in the communities. And not only that, parents involved the police officer, when I was growing up, the police knew everybody in the neighborhood. They've moved away from that. That's why it wasn't as much crime, and the police can say something because they knew you by name. I experienced that growing up. Everybody in the neighborhood knew the kids 2, 3, 4 blocks over. They'll call your parents and tell you over here where you're not supposed to be, or you over there cutting up. Now in the community, people close their door. They don't speak to their own neighbors. They don't even know little Mikey in the neighborhood. This is just what we've moved away from. It took a whole village, the whole community. We knew each other. People are afraid to speak to people. Why are you so afraid to speak to some kids? If you see these kids see that, hey, Miss So-and-so live over there, they spoke to you, wouldn't have to worry about what kids are going to do. because they know you and they're going to respect you. Respect them, they're going to respect you. Get to know them, they'll get to know you. That's just how it works. We need these groups. It's important to have these groups because these kids are going through a lot. They're going through stuff because they're angry. Their feelings need to be acknowledged. It starts at home. Parents need to talk to their kids, see how their day was, see where their mind is, because you don't know what your child is getting ready to go and do. You don't know what your kid is out there in the street doing. I think that parents need to have a day off where they need to go and pop up at schools. See what your kid is doing. See if your kid is in school. You know what I mean? It's yes, groups. We can have groups. We can bring kids together. They can sit down and talk, and know that someone is there for them. But the parents still need to acknowledge their kids' feelings. They still need to have these sit downs at home around the table with their kids, see how their day was. We get so busy because we're on survival mode. Parents have become supporters. They become providers. You have to be a nourisher as well. You have to, nourish and give that love. You have to let your kids know, I have time for you today. I'm tired, but what is it, what did you go through today? We've moved away from that because our society has said we need to provide. We need to pay these bills. We go to work to pay bills. We go to work to, keep the lights on. We go to work to constantly do these things, but we have children that need our attention as well. We do. We need these groups, but we need the parents in those groups too.
No, I completely agree there. You're so on point there, and there's very much, from what you were talking about from the times that we grew up, because I very much experienced that in the neighborhood that I grew up in as well. Like even if you didn't necessarily know an adult, if you're doing something wrong or you shouldn't be, there was an adult that was going to step in and be like, hey, stop, just stop. You shouldn't be doing that shit. Right. Where do you feel the disconnect started to, or where do you think the disconnect comes from the times that we were growing up and we had that, at least more prevalent? Because I've seen it still happening to a certain extent in communities. And I know there's individuals such as both of yourselves that are doing it in your communities. Dooney, I want to get your thoughts first, bro. Like, because I think the disconnect, really comes about in addition to what you were just talking about, Vanessa, in the sense that people just started at some point. I think it's twofold, right? Number one, it's systematic, right? The system is designed to make us start thinking that way as humans. But for the people that do think for themselves, where do you think that disconnect started to come from to make it different than or at least as prevalent as it was when we were growing up? Dooney, I'm curious to get your thoughts, first and foremost, and then Vanessa, I'm definitely curious to get your thoughts on that as well, because that's where I think it comes from, the systematic design, but also at some point, people almost, God, I hate to say it, but people almost just stop fucking caring, if I'm being honest.
I'm gonna let Vanessa answer that one. I mean, because I have my opinion, but my opinion comes from the 8 years of being free after 30 years, right?
But it still matters.
From what
It
I
still
seen.
matters because your experience
But
is
what I'm
different.
saying is, bro, allow her to answer that question, and she can summarize that, I'm sure.
I think the disconnect came when I'm gonna go way back. The drugs started coming in the neighborhoods. Kids started experiencing, not just kids but adults, but that disconnect came when they started experiencing with drugs, marijuana, different types of things that came through the neighborhoods. And then the disrespect of families, relationships. It's almost like the drugs, we're starting here, they're experiencing that, you know, smoking the marijuana, it's cool. Everybody wanted to be in the in crowd. Families, parents going to work more or becoming single parents, so they don't really have the time to see what the kids are doing. They're just making sure they get up and go to school. But because you're not home before your kid gets home, they're kind of pretty much parenting themselves, is what I see. That's what I've seen. Okay. I remember growing up, I had a lot of, friends. My mother was very strict. I was scared of my mother. She was the next thing to God. Okay. She just saw what I was doing. I just know this lady's watching me, But I would go to my friends' houses, and all day there's no parent. Where is your parents? Because I know my mother went to work and came home. And we better have things done before they get there. But if I go to my friend's house, these parents are gone all day. I mean, they're at work, but I'm like, how late do your parents work? Because we all been over here all day, kicking it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, over there smoking. You know what I mean? So it's like parents are working more and more and more, and they don't have time to really see what their kids are doing. So it becomes a disconnect. Now we have cell phones, computers that are raising your kids. Because I've seen parents, when they come home, your kid have been in front of this TV all day long, or their face is in the phone. Y'all haven't even had a conversation about how their day was. Their face is in the phone, and they're looking and believing everything they see online. Not only that, you have these kids as young as 2 that you want to hand a laptop, a tablet, your phone that's raising your kid, because you over here doing something else.
It's the babysitter.
Now you got to monitor what comes up on there, because you got predators, pedophiles. I've seen that firsthand as well. You know what I'm saying? They're on there recruiting these kids as young as 5, 3, 2, whatever. They're pretending.
No, you're right. And they're doing it through like Roblox and all these other games that it's wild. It's wild.
Everything. So now, you know what I'm saying? You've pretty much are losing control, because they're throwing a fit because you've taken it from them because you say you've had enough time, right? So it's out of control. You're starting them young to be out of control.
They're addicted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it becomes an addiction. And that is why I personally, I'll go and pop on Facebook, say something, or pop on message. So I know people be like, why is she going to come start a conversation? Then she gone and we ain't heard nothing else about it. But it's time consuming for me.
That, and you're also trying to live in reality, not virtual reality.
Exactly. It's the devil's den. It's the devil's den. So they're losing more and more control. These kids go on there to plan a fight, to plan a kill, to plan a steal. They'll post it. They recording it. You know what I'm saying? And it's
running it live sometimes. Like, come on, people. What are we doing?
They're live doing it. And why are these kids so angry and disconnected? Well, the parents need to get on board. Sit down with their kids, because we are losing them constantly to the streets, be it mentally losing them or physically losing them. It's happening. I want the women to get together. We talk about men They're out there doing the work, trying to do the work together. Well, you know what? Us women need to get on board too, because we hurt the most. Not saying men don't, because they hurt too deeply, but we hurt the most if we lose a child or something traumatizing happens, to these kids. These women that have lost kids, I would love for them to come together in these groups as well, to get these youth groups going together, to let them know and talk, even going live. We're tired of losing our babies in these streets. We're hurting. Talk to your kid. You're hurting me. You're out here in these streets and I'm hurting. I love you dearly, but I'm hurting. You have to talk to them in a way that they know that you have so much love for them. They don't have time to be out there, because you know what? I got this love over here. We have to show up. We have to show up. We have to spread the love. I don't care. It's not my child, but you know what? I love you because it brings tears to my eyes to see or hear when a child has gotten killed in the hand even of another kid. That child is hurting. That child that did it is hurting because they're going through something mentally. We need to show up. We need to get...
And to add that, we have to do it to something that you said earlier. You used the word consistently. We have to show up consistently as the parents as well, right? We can't just go have that conversation one time and then never check back in again. And I think another thing that a lot of parents neglect to understand. One of my managers, when I worked somewhere a long time ago, he basically put it this way: you can, you have a well of fear, right? You hear the good old saying, "Oh, I'm going to put the fear of God in you," right? Yeah. Listen, most time you could really only do that once. You can't go back to that same well over and over and over and over again. So you can do things consistently, but that's not one of them, because eventually you talk about turning a human being, let alone a youth, off from you.
Bullying.
Yeah.
It's called bullying. You can't never bully nobody into nothing, because they're not changing. They're conforming to do what you say until they're no longer in your presence.
Right.
So bullying never works.
When if you keep bullying somebody enough, eventually they're gonna they're gonna build up. We were talking about it earlier, dude. You build up that pressure within something. What's gonna happen? Eventually, it's gonna pop, right?
You teach them how to be bullies.
Right. You can't.
And then they're leading their life with fear, than with love and the pure intention. Right. So they get conformed and conditioned to, well, this is like, I'll use an example. Growing up in my household, an example of conditioning, right? Like my parents would fight like cats and dogs. They would sometimes not talk for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Okay. And then like literally would be like a switch. We would wake up on day 22 after 3 weeks of literally them not talking at all. And I'm sure you guys can imagine the amount of tension that lived in that household for 3 weeks. And then on day 22, they just all of a sudden like nothing happened. That shit fucked me up as a kid. And that affected
psychological abuse.
Yes,
bro.
It is. And then that affected my relationships of any kind, whether it was, growing up through like high school with a girlfriend or a friend or a coworker, until I dove into my past and kind of started, as you like to put it, Dooney, got back in touch with the inner child within me. And I went back and unpacked that shit, which wasn't until I was like, honestly, in my mid-30s, I can confidently and sadly say at the same time that shit fucked with my relationships until I really unpacked that shit in my mid-30s. Because you get conditioned. At least, again, I'm going to using in this scenario from what we're talking about. I was conditioned. Well, no, that's okay. I can go tell wifey this, that, and the other thing because I love her. Because that's what I was taught to do growing up in that environment, right? You could just pound somebody into the sand all you want, verbally or physically, but it's okay because they loved each other and they said those words, "I love you." Nah, man, you got to show it.
The kids have to see the love in the household. If they see, you you and your husband fighting, arguing, rah, 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 constantly, then you go on your separate ways. They need to see the love when you come back. They need to see that, and they need to be told, you know what, this is not right. This is not the way, I'm sorry, I apologize, that, we even went there or did that in front of you. This is not what you're supposed to do. We're figuring it out. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't see, that's the one thing I could say, that I didn't see my mother and my father, fight and argue, scream and holler and all of that. I just didn't see that. I mean, when I got older, my mother would tell us about, the times that, they got into it or whatever. But we knew there was a reason for the separation, but I was still little. I was 5 when my real father and my mother, separated. But was there any questions asked? No. You know what I'm saying? I was a kid, right? But I didn't see any fighting and arguing and screaming. Even my stepdad, because my stepdad, years later when my mom got married, my stepdad, he was really the father that I knew, that, raised me from 5 on, till in my teenage, years. And he stuck around till the day he passed, even when they separated years later. But I didn't see the fighting. I didn't see any of that. I didn't know the reason of the separation. I just knew that, well, obviously something happened. They separated, but to see the fighting and carrying on, and I don't display that, when I'd been married once before, my kids didn't see any of that stuff. That's not something we're not going to do this in front of no kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their business. It's just not their business. But when the time came to separate and me go my own way, and get a divorce, I spoke with both my stepchildren and my kids, it's just not working out. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go our separate ways. And I let my stepchildren know, I'm going to always be in your life. If you need me, I'm here. I still have that love for you. My love is not something you can turn on and off. It's real. I still have that for you. And I'm still here. To this day, if I see them or, if they reached out, I'm still here. Everybody's gotten grown and moved on, of course, but I'm still that same stepmother I was years ago. I'm still her. With my daycare kids, I have a lot of love for my daycare children. I tell people, you don't know what kids go through at home. And so my mother taught me, they may not have what you have. Always, give and share what you have. I have a lot of love to share. So I share that with kids. Kids are my thing. They're my people. They're, I'll hug a kid in a minute. You know what I'm saying? And they gravitate to me. I don't know what it is. I'll see babies out, and they're, looking and they're staring at me, and they can feel it. They can feel that love.
Yep.
I'm very firm, but kids know, don't play with Miss Vanessa, but she loves you, but she's going to lead you the right way, show you the right way. I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to spread the love. People call me when things happen. If someone, has gotten killed, please come over here and pray. I'm there. I'm going over there with the family. I'm praying, with, everyone that's there, because everyone's hurting. The family that lost their child and the person's family that even did it is hurting. We can't just shut everybody out, because God doesn't shut us out for what we do. I understand that was their family member that caused this, but that family is hurting because they're about to lose someone as well, be it however that plays out, but they're hurting as well. You know what I'm saying? And they're here for support. I've seen it. I've been there with both sides. I just want to get let's pray, because we have to keep the prayer and we have to keep God in it, because everybody's mentally struggling And we want to make sure that the outcome is we got to come together. We're still a community. We're still a family. We still have to spread the love. These kids still need us on both sides. And we have to stay focused on that. We really have to stay focused on that. We're so divided. When things happen, we're so divided. We have to, like you said, you were saying something earlier about the mental disconnect of a person actually shooting or killing someone. Sometimes these kids are on drugs. Sometimes these kids are just being jumped into gangs to do things. Sometimes there is someone that's leading this gang or these kids to go do their dirty work. I'm sorry, I have to say it. It's happening. It's so many reasons and so many things that play out when a person goes to physically shoot, because you're not that angry. You don't even know this person. And for you to disconnect, you have to be on something. You done worked yourself up. You taught someone and talked to you, worked you up, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure we're talking to our children and giving them the love and acknowledging their feelings. We have to break the chain somewhere. And it starts at home. It's nothing cool about
100%.
going out killing each other. You're getting nothing out of it. There's no money in it. There's no life in it. There's no future in it. For you, your parents, they're hurting. It's time to break the chain somewhere. And we do. We need a group. We need to stay consistent. We need to still as well get through to these parents. It's a lot of young parents out here that don't know where to start, what to do with their kids because they're so out of control. But we got to take control. We got to get that control back. We do. We do. And it starts in the home.
So with the platform we got, we'll be able to create things such as that in the community with this community's support. So being king and queen, and carrying those crowns, we have access to a lot when it comes to the community, and we'll be utilizing that, starting with the pamperment for men and the exhale for women. You know what I mean? You could tell him a little bit about that, love, if you will. That's gonna be coming up in Sacramento, the pamperment and the exhale.
Well,
No,
the
I would just want to add to that real quick because I definitely want to hear that. The point I want to make real quick, Vanessa, from what Dooney said there is, you know, it's a very easy example of how what Dooney's talking about here and what Vanessa is going to explain more with the Exhale program of what you could be doing in the community. Because here's the thing, you don't have to do exactly what they're doing. You just have to take the step. You just have to take the step to do something like that within your community. And if you don't have the time or the resources or the money to do something like that, well, Vanessa says something there, which is very important. Guess what you do have? If you are a parent, you have that authority at your own home, which is where this all starts at, people. So I needed to make that point. Didn't want to cut you off, Queen, but you go ahead and talk about that Exhale program, which is something that's coming out of your community in Sacramento.
Right. Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, what you said, it doesn't cost anything, to of course to parent or for it to start in the home with consistency, acknowledging and spreading the love in your home to make sure your child knows that I'm here for you, whatever you're going through. Doesn't cost anything if once we get the group going to say, well, let's go out, you know what I'm saying, and talk to some other people here, because it really turns out to be, people opening up, kids being able to open up, even parents. And it turns out to be fun. It's not going to just be a series where we're there getting on people's helmet about anything they're doing. It's about what you're going through as a child. What can we do for you? What can we do to help you? You know what I'm saying? Even the parent, what can we do to help you? You know, there's a lot of talent being wasted in the streets with these kids.
Mhm.
Find out what kind of talents and what your child wants to do, you know, and that's just what it's all about when it comes to these groups. But the exhale is for women. It's going to start out for women, you know, where the men, serve the women. You know what I'm saying? But it's going to be, some speakers there, and different resources for women, medical, or just funding and groups for those that are just going through something. You want to just talk about it. Someone to talk to, someone to counsel with, as well. Just women releasing, getting together, getting to know other women, other people that have been through something or may not have been through anything, that can help you, or just talk to you, meet a new friend. It's just exhaling and releasing some things that you're going through. The pamperment is for men as well. I feel that men also need to be heard, need to be catered to, need to be pampered. Just like at the XO, there'll be, massages and stuff, but the men can enjoy getting, a 10, 15-minute massage, being served as well, because there will be food there, prizes. There will be also, men speakers there to speak, as well. So it's pretty much like an exhale, but it's called a pamperment, and it's pamper men. Okay, so that's why I call it that, because it's for the men.
I like that.
So for them to come out as well to release, talk, mingle, get to know, other men, other resources as well in the community. So it's going to be nice, fun, relaxing for everyone.
Well, I
So
think
that's
that's
what.
important. Sometimes we got to make that time for ourselves, right? And even if, in certain individuals' specific community that they find themselves in, even if there are not programs like that or opportunities like that that are available, guess what? You are an individual and you have the choice to take that exhale and pamper men or pamperment yourself at the end of the day, because especially if you're an adult, guess what? You have adult choices to make, but you have to make that conscious effort, right? You don't always have to be going at 100 miles an hour. You can take that exhalation and think about, what can I be doing differently to change whatever I might perceive as something that may not be positive in my life, or if there's
Right.
something that I would want my to hold better value for in my life. You don't need a group to do that. Don't get me wrong, it makes it easier, or it might be nicer, if you will, if you have that available to you, but you have a choice. Listen, if we're lucky enough to wake up with the two gifts that the creator gives us every day, when we have that ability to, and that's our eyes when we do wake up, right? From that moment on, throughout the course of the day that you are awake before you lay your head down, everything you do is a choice. If you're going to work that day, if you're on the schedule, you might be on the schedule, but you still have a choice to go to work or not to go to work. You have a choice to
Right.
get on that bus or put those shoes on and walk if you're walking to work, or hop in your car and turn the key. It is a series of choices. And I think it's important that we got to tell ourselves that. But I think a part of it, from what we've been discussing here tonight, as well, is we get conditioned, we get conformed to what society tells us to do. Well, you got to go work a Monday through Friday job. You have to work 40 hours a week. You have to do this. And then it's like that good old saying, eat, sleep, rinse, repeat, right? But you should take that time, instead of maybe, for example, watching TV before you go to bed. Maybe you should take 10 minutes, take 10 seconds even, to make a conscious effort to even ask yourself the question, did I do something of value for myself today as a human being? And if you truly can answer yourself and be like, no, shit, nah, I didn't. Well, then the next question, again, we're talking about 10, 20 seconds here. What can I do tomorrow to make sure that I do that? It's a conscious effort and decision that we as human beings, especially as adults, have to make. And that's on us, and we have nobody else to blame, because don't get me wrong, people are getting fed shit sandwiches all day every day,
Right.
365 days a year. And it might not, you might not live that as an individual, and sadly there are some people that do. But what are you doing as an individual to change that? Right? And that was like my experience with in being an alcoholic. Right? I made a decision one day. Right? Chelsea was like, yo, here's the deal, it's either booze, you continue on with the booze, or you can have us, the family.
Right.
That was on a Saturday morning. I had never touched another drink since then, because I had a choice. Yes, she had the choice to come and have that conversation with me. And I commend her for doing that, because she didn't have to have that conversation with me. She could have just sucked it up and either just lived life as it was for our family in that moment, or she could have just chose to leave, right? But no, she made the choice to have that conversation because she valued something in me, and she valued what we had as a family. And then obviously the onus became on me. And I had a choice. Well, shit, Mike, what do you want to do? And as the adult, I said, well, I love my fucking family. So that's going to be easy for me. But then there was another series of choices that led to me, not touching a drink for 4 years and a couple months at that point. And there is strength in realizing, people. And again, I'm going to speak from my experience, and I'm definitely curious, Dooney and Vanessa, to get your thoughts on what I'm about to say here. I value myself enough to make the right decisions that are going to give me what I want in my life. And you guys know that I want three things. I want to take care of my family. I want to be an asset to others. I want to make music. Every day I make choices that lead to those three things and nothing else. And I find a lot of strength and power in that, because ever since I made that decision, I have lived a life of strength, value, and purpose. Do you guys share those same thoughts that I do?
Go
You
ahead.
can answer that, Vanessa. Well, for me, personally, I understand, like, not everyone has that strength to to help themselves out of whatever it is they're going through.
Hmm.
And in a group, they may find someone or something that inspires them or motivates them or moves them or help that they can relate to, right? In that group, it's a community. That group is a community, and community is needed, right? So I would never discount that as being a need, because everyone can't do it. Because if everyone can do it on their own, then everyone will be doing it, right? Um, but as far as that, man, it go back to the mental illness again, though, bro. It go back to your experiences, and just think about it for a minute. We say we never understood, like, or we never heard our parents fight and argue, right? Those that never did, right? But you knew something was wrong, so that means that you never learned how to communicate, right?
Yep,
When this something did
exactly.
go wrong, that means you was
Exactly.
denied that,
100%,
because
bro.
they didn't show you
100%.
how to resolve it. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, damn, they good now. That was not good for the child.
Nope. Not
No.
even close.
So now these
Cuz it
kids
also
don't,
made me
and then,
not love myself as well.
yeah, but now they don't know how to communicate
Mhm.
when they get into these situations with their spouse,
All right.
or or when, or now this daughter don't know how to talk to her son. It is it, or the father don't know how to talk to his son or his daughter, because that communication is a skill set, bro. It's some, everybody not born with that, so it's something that you have to learn and to develop. And you learn to develop after seeing it over, like Vanessa said, she had a mother that showed her
Mhm.
over and over and over until it locked in. Bam. Okay, bam, that's cemented in there. It doesn't happen the first time. You need consistency. And if you consistently not see how someone communicates, how in the hell do you communicate?
Yep.
Just offer that. But you can. bring that question back to Vanessa again.
Yeah,
Refresh that
absolutely.
question.
So essentially the question was, in having the strength and finding that strength to value yourself as, essentially an individual, through the experiences that you have, how much of a difference let me put it this way, how much easier do you think it makes in order to make valuable decisions in your life and having that strength for yourself?
Um, in having that strength for myself, well, I value myself and my life. I value my family. Like I said, I wear many hats. And like you, I did go through a drinking phase at one point in my life. I was younger when I did, though, in my probably my late 20s, mid to late 20s. And I drank and drank and drank because oh my goodness, going through something and, thought that was, going to solve the problem and all of that. But because I valued myself and my life and, my appearance meant everything to me, my children meant everything to me. My children were little kids, you know what I mean? And I went through a little phase. My real father, died of cirrhosis of the liver, you know what I'm saying, because he was an alcoholic, but that was as when I got older. So I value myself in my life. So I don't do anything excessively. Okay. So it has made a great impact on my life for me to, you know, change some things. Because for one, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a lot of things. And, I say that and people say, they're all of these things, but I actually show up for all these people. I show up. So I value my life and I value the lives of those around me and in my circle. Okay. I'm a wife now, as well. So I definitely say that it has, really changed me to change some things that I do and how I carry myself and, the things that I choose to do. Okay. So it has definitely been a real, impact on, on my life. I just, I just have to show up. It's just so many people that I have to show up for. So I have to carry myself differently. I have to, walk and talk differently, and first and foremost, I have to answer to God. So yes, I value me. I value my life. I've changed some things, and I am happy, with the way, that I choose to, live my life. I'm still working on me. I'm a work in progress, like everyone else.
Hmm.
But you have to
And then,
recognize that.
that's exactly what I was just going to say. And I think it's important to note that when we hear the word selfish, not being, because you kind of said, too much of anything is a bad thing, right? But I think there's a point in
Right.
time that we have to be selfish for ourselves. And what I mean by that, and I'll share an example. I was talking to a college friend of mine, Pat, that I know for 20 plus years. And, the subject essentially was, I mean, I've always known him to be fit and is taking care of his physical and mental well-being. And we were having a conversation about both of those things. And he's like, man, he's like, I got to get into a gym. He's like, I just don't feel good with myself. And I'm like, bro. And this is an individual who's a father. He's a husband. He's got two young queens at home, 5 and 8, 4 and 8, I think they are. And I told him, I was like, Pat, listen, bro. I was like, this is up. If you're really feeling that way about what you got going on right now, I was like, this is an instance where you need to be selfish for yourself. Because if you're not happy with yourself as an individual, right, then how can you be that valuable resource as a father, as a husband, and any other relationship that you do hold within your life if you're not right with yourself completely, wholly, And you said it as well, Vanessa. Like, we're all a work in progress. We're all learning things as we go on. As long as we're given the opportunity here in the physical world, we should be doing that, right? We should be a work in progress because we should always be wanting to get better. And I think it's okay to understand that there are times in life where it is okay to put yourself first and be selfish in that respect. Because my feeling is, if you have relationships with people that you are supporting in a mental, physical, monetary standpoint, using the example of a parent, right? Well, you
Right.
have to be selfish for yourself, because you have to take care of number one. Because if you're not taking care of yourself as you need to as number one, well, how can you take care of the number one people or relationships in your life that are those direct people within your household, or relationships of any kind? And anything that you guys want to add to that, because I think there are times in life where we have to be selfish for ourselves. And that was like me with my alcoholism. I had to be selfish and be like, yo, I've got to pour a lot more into myself right now than I might, on a day-to-day basis for my family. Because if I don't pour into myself, well, there is going to be no family for me to take care of ultimately. Right. So what are your guys' thoughts on that, and it being okay at times to be selfish? And anybody that's watching with us live, if you have any comments to add to that, please drop them in the comment section for us. Vanessa, I'll go to you on your thoughts on that first. And then Dooney, I'm definitely curious to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I, I I'm just learning how to be selfish. Um, of course, my husband always tells me, you need to take care of yourself. You're always taking care of someone else. You need to take time for yourself. It's easier said than done. Because I'm so giving, and I mean, I take care of kids 5 days a week, all day. Okay. So I'm steady, always giving, always doing. I have family. I have, people that need me outside of that. And when I say that I wear many hats, it's so many people I just try to show up for. It doesn't, just really matter. It's just, no, because they need me. I have, I be telling, John, I'll be like, well, my cousins, they're all younger, when they're younger than me and want me to be there, they invite me to things. I show up because pretty much, I feel like I'm the only older cousin, or relative that don't mind going to go and mix and mingle with them. They can be who they are, do what they want. The selfishness in me, I just don't know. I take care of myself, don't get me wrong. But I do have to learn how to get out and pamper myself more, be it go and get you a massage, or, when I don't do the nail shops and all of that kind of stuff, I can do that at home. My husband will take care of me on that part. So it's like, I'm just not in the selfish. I have to learn how to do that, and it's okay to do that. It really is okay to be able to do that. But I have to get into doing that more. This year, I plan on doing the selfish thing. I do. We're away right now. So that was like, don't bother me. This is, our time. And, that was something for me, so I think that I'm getting better at it. And, for the people out there, definitely take time for yourself, because you do need to pull away and release sometime. I have my moments where I'll pull away and just get a moment and release, but I go into prayer to rejuvenate and then come back. But the getting out, pampering, and, being selfish with myself, I do need to do that more. And I encourage people to do it. You have to pull away, because it's a lot. And that's what the exhale is about. You have to pull away. You really do have to pull away. You have to get that self time in. You do. Me time is good for everyone. Men, women, even kids need some me time. They do. They need me time as well.
And
They
you gotta
do.
do it consistently.
Yes.
Consistently, for sure.
Yes.
Dooney, what are your thoughts? Obviously, and obviously we're talking in the for anybody that might just be tapping in now, to this live conversation in the context of being selfish so we can make ourselves good physically, mentally, spiritually. That way we could be the valuable resource for the other relationships that we do hold with others in our lives. What are your thoughts on being selfish when it's appropriate to be selfish to pour into ourselves?
Synopsis. Synopsis. The first care is self care, bro. You can't take care of nobody until you're taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So the first care is self care, and everyone else is blessed by you being better. But you got to take care of self.
Man, true friggin'
Gotcha.
words. True friggin' words. Well, we're gonna start to wind down the conversation here. I want to be respectful of your time, Vanessa, obviously for joining. And you guys are doing the selfish thing and being away for a couple of days. So I want to make sure that y'all get back to your selfish quality time together, which is important for couples as well. That's
Yeah.
okay, people. There's nothing wrong with that in any way, shape, or form. So as we start to wind down here, Vanessa, any final thoughts that you want to share, or is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wind down this conversation here in the next few moments?
Um, I just want, as I always say, you know me, we've had this conversation before about families getting back connected. I feel that how we can do that is important in the homes first. Start sitting back down, having dinner with your kids. Cook dinner, let's sit together, talk about their day, talk about your day, talk about, things that, they may want to do. Take your kids out on dates. Today, we're going to go and do this together. Kids are being sent out to movies by themselves, to the malls, to this, to that. Go with your kids. Come on. Today, we're hanging out. Hang out with them. Find out where their head is. See what it is that they're going through. Because if they can't talk to you, they will talk to the streets. And that's not going to always turn out the way you want it to. Get back connected with your kids. It's important. It starts at home. It starts at home. It starts at home. Know where your kids are. Know where their mind is. That's it.
And we control that. That was so eloquently put, because we control that. We just have to make the conscious choice and effort to actually do
Yeah.
that on a consistent basis, which consistency has very much been a theme overall from all of the different discussions and topics that we addressed and dove into this evening. Dooney, before we close the door on the outsiders today, any final thoughts that you would like to add to what Vanessa just said, or just anything from the conversation that you just want to put your final stamp on before we finish this conversation?
Um, I would just say, man, just to remember what it was like for you when you was a child, and what you wanted as a child, and what you may have gotten or what you didn't get, and give it to your child. You knew what you wanted. Just give it.
You're right, and it's easy to do that because one thing that you said on this show a long time ago, Dooney, one of the first shows that we had as co-hosts together, is there is that inner child within all of us. They're in there. I went through that discovery over the last 4 years, and that inner child is here, and we owe that to that inner child within ourselves, as well as any youth, whether they are our children or children of the community that we're looking to be, and we need to be an example of, specifically in the way that Vanessa finished up her points from tonight, as of getting back to connectivity within the family, because family doesn't necessarily have to be living right in your household. Family's family, right? I live by a saying, blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family. We have to start getting back connected. And I need to reiterate that from what you said, Vanessa, in your final thoughts. We need to connect more as a family. And whether we believe it or not, whether we think it or not, We all come from the same origin as human beings, whether
Mm.
we like it or not. We are all family.
Yes.
And we have to start connecting more as family, because if we just do that simple one thing consciously, the world is going to be a lot better place. I can promise you that, because I've lived that on the micro level within my household and within myself. And just imagine if we could do that as humankind on a macro level, Dooney. Man, how much things better would be in this world, bro.
About that time. It's about that
It's
time. We
crazy.
outside live. About to wrap him up.
Man, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, outsiders, we appreciate you tapping in. This conversation, as all of them are available. Blessings to the queen, my sister, Vanessa, for joining us and sharing her insights, her experiences, her stories, her thoughts. On behalf of myself and my brother and co host, John Wyndham, aka Dooney, to those that know him like that, I appreciate your time, your insights, and your wisdom as always. I love sharing these conversations with you. So thank you. Y'all have a good rest of your night. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to us on Twitch. We do these conversations live on Twitch, and then they officially drop on YouTube the following week. So if you caught us live, congratulations. Anybody else? Well, you're going to have to wait till next week to get this wisdom dropped on you, but it's going to be there. Whereas we already have dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations. So until next week, when we're live outside, we will see you then. But go subscribe and follow that YouTube channel, because that's where everything that we talk about lives. Have at it at your convenience. King, Quinn, we appreciate you. I will get with y'all later.
All right. Be blessed.